Men began to drift away from the battle. It was time to go, if it could be managed. The great problem was to extricate the guns, many of them silent now, standing at all angles on the skyline, amid smashed limbers, dead horses, and dead men. The Royal Artillery does not willingly abandon guns. The teams dashed forward through cheering infantry.
As they came within view of the enemy, they were struck by a hurricane of shrapnel and bullets from machine guns. But still they went on. The officer in charge of the teams was killed. One team shot down in a heap before the position was reached. But 2 guns of the 122nd Battery were carried out without mishap. A third was limbered up, but the horses went down instantly.
The rest had to be left. The Germans were only 200 yards away. Incredibly, in the broad daylight of mid-afternoon, Smith-Dorrien's 3 divisions slipped away, and the Germans did not even know which way they had gone. This was the British Army's first real battle, and the cost was considerable. Nearly 8,000 officers and men, and 38 guns. And now they were retreating again, although they had done everything expected of them, and they had no sense of being beaten men. But tired troops can look like beaten men, especially to those who don't understand them. General Smith-Dorrien understood them perfectly.
It was a wonderful sight. Men smoking their pipes, apparently quite unconcerned, and walking steadily down the road. No formation of any sort, and men of all units mixed up together. I likened it, at the time, to a crowd coming away from a race meeting.
Joffre's liaison officer at General Headquarters, Colonel Huguet, did not understand the British Army. Joffre was appalled at his report.
The situation is extremely critical. For the moment, the British Army is beaten and is incapable of any serious effort. The 3rd and 5th Divisions are now nothing more than disorganized bands, incapable of offering the smallest resistance. Conditions are such that for the moment, the British Army no longer exists.
It wasn't true. It was just that they were tired.
We marched and marched day after day. We got very little food. I'd eaten my emergency rations at Bleecker 2, which of course I shouldn't have done. We had a tin of bully beef. I'd eaten that as well. And we were all very, very hungry. We certainly did get a cup of tea occasionally, or a canteen of tea. And we marched through a forest, which was very cold and dank. We were marching during the daytime, very big forest. It was very cold in this forest.
Sometimes cold, more often far too hot. The exhausted soldiers made their tour of France. 35 miles to the Somme and into Picardy, along white roads, dead straight between the poplar trees, dust rising off the cobbles.
I've seen infantry there with their feet bleeding. I've seen infantry with their boots off and puttees wrapped round them. I've seen men sobbing and turning round asking our officers, why the hell can't we fight? Why won't you let us fight?
Down into the Ile-de-France, the dark forests and the green river valleys, with the little gay chalets where the Parisians go to fish and picnic in the summer. This was no picnic. It was a despondent tide of humanity, laden soldiers beside burdened refugees, sharing the same wretchedness, treading the same long road which trudged wearily southward.
We came across 2 girls, only young girls they were just helping each other along. And they could hardly drag one foot before the other. A little bit further I saw one poor old chap with a long white flowing beard, sat in a wheelbarrow there, and another old chap with a beard wheeling him along, a little girl by the side weeping. Further as we got along, there were thousands, not hundreds, thousands, taken to the woods at the side of the road. We saw them with what they had, the scanty possessions, taking refuge in the wood. for the night. And these woods, they were just silhouetted in the background by the flames of the burning villages and hamlets, which had been destroyed before them. These people were just homeless and hopeless.
The hopelessness of it all began to communicate to everyone. It reached even to the indomitable commander of the Allied armies, General Joffre.
It was a very, very strange thing to see a single man exercising his will over a mass of about 1 million men, with the fate of his country in balance, having to satisfy the political requirements of his own government, the British government, having to face a catastrophic situation and never getting rattled.
Appearances and reality were beginning to drift apart. One appearance did match the reality. Everyone looked tired, and everyone was tired. Order out of disorder, hope out of darkness, reverse out of triumph. These were the realities which had to be plucked out of appearances. Southwestwards now, towards Amiens and distant towns that had never dreamt of war, marched von Kluck's First Army. If they were not checked, Joffre's new Sixth Army would be smashed before it formed. Could they be checked? It seemed that they just might be. For as they marched to the southwest, a gap grew between them and their neighbors, and the Germans, in their turn, exposed their flank. It all depended on General Lanzac. What followed was the Battle of Guise. August the 29th, the French columns wove westward through the early morning mists and across the river Oise. Their objective, Saint-Quentin, on the left flank of the German First Army. At first everything went well, slowly but well. Towards noon, the whole picture suddenly changed. Von Bülow's Second Army now took the French in flank as it came southwards, crossing the river Oise at the ancient town of Guise. It was an ugly crisis, but Lanzac rose to the occasion. He switched his reserve, still marching westward, into the northern fight. Throw the Germans back across the Oise, he ordered. And the reserve commander, General Franchet d'Espèrey, one of the most dynamic officers in the French army, was just the man to do it. On horseback, surrounded by his staff, Franchet d'Espèrey led his red-trousered infantry with colors flying, bands playing into the attack. It was the last of the old-time pageants of war, and it succeeded. They did throw the Germans back across the Oise. The Battle of Saint-Quentin came to nothing, but the Battle of Guise was a most valuable success, because now the straining Schlieffen plan broke down at last. General von Bülow, in great alarm, called to von Kluck for help, and von Kluck, halting his march to the southwest, turned inwards, towards Paris. The streets of Paris were sad and empty. The city of pleasure silent now and scared. The government had gone to the distant safety of Bordeaux, and many of the citizens had also fled. General Joseph Gallieni was in sole command. Before he left, the Minister of War had told Gallieni to defend Paris à outrance. Do you understand, Minister, the significance of the words à outrance? Asked Gallieni. They mean destruction, ruins, dynamiting bridges in the center of the city. À outrance, the minister repeated. Gallieni issued a proclamation.
Army of Paris, citizens of Paris, the members of the government of the Republic have left Paris to give a new impulse to the national defense. I have received a mandate to defend Paris against the invader. This mandate I shall carry out to the end.
The French people were learning fast what war meant. Everyone was learning. A special Sunday afternoon edition of the London Times, with a dispatch from a correspondent in Amiens, confirmed what the observant